Okay, guys, what are we actually calling this? It has to be feminist.
But fun.
And bold.
And maybe a little rebellious?
Okay, the feminist files?
Nah, too serious.
What about femme frequency?
Nah, too techie. What about the F spot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Definitely.
I like
Yeah.
that. The F word, feminists.
Welcome to the F spot.
Yay.
Have you guys seen that show called Lost at Sea?
No.
It's a YouTube channel show, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based off on like the Israelites when they like ran away from Pharaoh and crossed the Red Sea.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of designed like The Office, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's like Moses.
Mm-hmm.
There's Moses' sister. I think she's Miriam.
Yeah.
Then there's Joshua. Who's his brother? I've forgotten what Moses' brother's name is. Aaron, yes. There's Aaron. And there's also his wife, Zephora, right? So basically, it's designed in a way like, it's really funny. It's like a 30-minute show. And basically, like, they're interviewing everyone, like, oh, what do you feel about this? And what and what. And then it's like the way The Office is done.
Yeah.
And then there's this one guy who is like, they interview him and they're like, and you, what do you feel? And he's like, I was part of the Egyptians chasing the Israelites. And now I am like stuck here and I have to pretend. And so there's one guy who always like is suspicious of him and he's always like, where are you from? And then he always has to make up things. It is quite hilarious.
I'll
It is-
definitely check it out.
You should watch it. So like they show us like when they leave, then they also show when these guys like make a god out of like the cow and whatnot. And so afterwards, when I think Moses comes with the New Testament, he's like, listen, God has spoken to me and he says, I need to teach you people about the law. And so we're going to law school. And so he prepares everyone and Miriam is excited, the sister. And so one thing you understand about the sister is that Miriam doesn't like Moses.
Okay.
She doesn't like him because there's a part where she's talking about how she was like, she's a trained musician and she was the most famous person in this family. Then suddenly the baby her mother abandoned comes back and he's the most thing. And she's like very like atypical, like she's so stuck up, right? But she's really smart. So she's like, I want to go to law school. And he's like, I'm sorry, Miriam, God doesn't allow women to go to law school.
Oh my gosh.
And then Miriam also hates Zephora. Not that hates her because she's a bad person, but things just come easy to Zephora. Like, whereas like Miriam would take forever with like art, music, Zephora would just like stand up, do something. And Zephora is like this very quirky black woman. So she goes to her and she's like, you know what? We deserve to go to law school too. And so they dress up as men and they go to like law school. And Miriam is even the best student when they have exams.
Yeah.
Because like she has like this whole, like she's just so smart, the way she answers things. And like she's so pissed and she's so angry. And she just doesn't understand, like, it's so unfair. Why is it that these men who aren't even as smart as me get to come here and learn the law about the Lord, and then I don't even go to law school? But in the end, she's happy because she snuck in and she defeated them and she was the smartest person there. But she doesn't like reveal it, right?
Yeah.
I think there are only like 6 episodes, but it makes me think of like, when you think like throughout history, right? When you think of how, like I remember in the US, there were situations before like women were given the right to vote. Women would dress up as men and go and like try and pretend to vote. I mean, not pretend to vote, they would actually go and try and vote, but they would stop them, right?
Yeah.
Then when you go to the UK, women would learn like jujutsu. How do they pronounce it? Jujutsu. Yes. They would learn like martial arts, right? And they would learn it. And if you're a man and you said you didn't believe women had the right to vote, they'll come and like attack you and beat you up. So then like somebody like Churchill was beaten up. There were so many situations where even it went to a point where like for some women, if like your husbands didn't believe in women's right to vote, they would poison them with arsenic.
Mm.
Yeah, like they would be like, this is like very serious to us. You can't just come and say that we don't have the right to vote. Then they would go and poison them. So it got to the point where they were even bombing members of parliament's homes. So if any member of parliament would argue the right that women did not deserve the right to vote, in like maybe 2 days, you open a package in his house and there'll be a bomb. Right? And so there's like this long history of where women have been denied of spaces. Specifically, when we think of like the right to vote, it's tied to who makes our laws. It's tied to who's in charge of our money. How is our country being governed? And for centuries, women were not allowed to vote, while men were allowed to vote, right? And so we come from a long history of where women have gone through like really drastic, radical means to make sure that they have access within the spaces. Like Miriam, who went to law school, you have these women who did everything in their power to make sure that they had the right to vote. Yeah, so I think I'm going to start with our first guest. I want her to introduce herself because she's new. I want to know why you think it was important to these women that they vote. But please introduce your name first.
Thank you so much. And I totally agree with you that women for years were kept back from doing so many important things, and voting has always been one of them. And seeing the strides that they made, the fights that they put up, they knew, and I like the example of how some went to the extent of blowing up houses, poisoning people, because they realized that this voting and the decisions that come because of voting were a matter of life and death. And so they had to fight for it, even if life was lost. I mean, it was definitely worth fighting for. My name is Given Capolio. What else? Yes, so Given, I like to be called Given. I am a mother. I am a feminist. I am a teacher by profession. But not teaching. I am an activist and gladly working in the civil society space. So yeah.
Okay. We're happy to have you.
It's a pleasure. I'm really excited to be here.
Okay. I think Hazel can go next. Why do you think these women were going to these extremes?
I feel like it's easy to accept what the norm is, and it's harder to stray away from the norm, to like give yourself a harder time so you can get away from what the norm is. And I feel like it's really important for that one person to want to stray away from the norm, because I'm sure many women are like, oh, okay, we're not allowed to vote. But then one woman was like, why? So she asked her friend, like, why aren't we allowed to vote? And they become angry, the two of them, and next they're angry, the three of them, and so on and so forth. So I just feel like the few women who were so angry about it were right, were the most important even, because then they built a whole movement on their backs, on their anger, on their blood, on their tears, on their sweat. So yeah. And they knew like nothing would change if they didn't try to change it themselves.
That's true. I wanted to kind of like read a list of things women couldn't do before like women were ever allowed to vote, right? So, of course, the first one is women couldn't vote in elections, right? So it didn't matter if it was your councillor, your MP, your president, it didn't matter. They couldn't run for political office. They had no say in like laws or government decisions. Then for some countries like the US that have like a jury system, women couldn't like serve on the jury. So it meant like maybe, for example, one of the biggest reasons why they argue that a jury is good is that maybe your peers will help see things in a different light, right? So you see it like maybe when a Black person is accused of something, they prefer having like a jury of majority Black, because Black people will be able to see the nuances, specifically when it comes to like living in a very racist country, right? So for women, if women were convicted for killing their husbands, it would like they wouldn't have their peers there, right? There was also, you couldn't own property. You couldn't control your own money. Even if you were getting paid, let's say you had a job, your money would go directly to your male guardian. You also couldn't make any financial decisions without your husband or male relative. You couldn't practice law like Miriam. You couldn't be a doctor. You couldn't be in politics. You always had to be paid less than men. You were forced to quit jobs once you got married, right? And like, for example, in Zambia, I remember like in the 1970s, there was a law that if you were if you were a single woman, you could be a full-time employee. And then once you got married, you became a part-time employee. You did not, while men, once they got married, could get like housing benefits. I think the law was so silly in the sense that even if you had a child with a man and you were not married, like the man would receive those benefits on your behalf. Yeah. So we've come like a very, very long way, right?
Yeah.
As a country, to the point that we've had women stand for president. In this country, I think it has only been Edith Nawaki. Who else has run for?
Shalakateka as well.
Yeah.
Mm.
And then we've reached a point where like Zambia in itself is like very pitiful in my opinion, right?
Mm.
Because how many women do we have in parliament? Women who are actually elected, not nominated, but elected. How many do we have? And why is it that we've reached this point where, yes, women have the right to vote, and yet the people who are leading us aren't our peers, you know? It's somebody's grandfather, always somebody's grandfather. Never somebody's sister, never somebody's auntie. You hear things of like, this is the youngest MP, but they mean male.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the youngest female MP we've ever had in parliament?
34, 2021.
Who was that?
Jane Chisenga, Mambilima constituency.
Oh, yeah.
She was one in the first in a long time.
Long time.
Yeah. And even that was difficult to get to when a lot of questions around, is she married? We would not. It took like a lot of family backing and a whole family name to actually substantiate her candidacy and whatnot. So it's still a whole struggle. And she was just a youth for like a year of being in parliament, and then that was gone. And so since 2022, we've not had a young female in parliament. Nothing.
Are you about to tell us that next elections it's you?
We'll vote for you.
I'd
don't
really
worry.
love that. And I see a lot of young women getting ready to actually take up political office. The Girls Gone Political, a movement that's just trying to rally up a lot of young women to try and run for these offices. But the battle is still really huge. Like you mentioned, Anne, history has already done us some disservice because we're coming from a time where women were considered property.
Yeah.
We're coming from a time when a man counted his property. He would count, I have 3 wives, 3 goats, 3 chickens, 3 pieces of land. And so till today, we still have women who actually say, no, you can't. I remember I had this conversation with my mother, and she'll constantly ask questions like, you mean there's no one, not even one, fear. And I'm like, Mommy, you might need to trade a wedding ceremony. No, to folk Shana and whatnot. And you tell her, no, you might need to trade off a wedding ceremony for an inauguration. And she's like, wait. We are with Takwaba. I'm like, what if I became president? You would rather a wedding over a presidential inauguration?
But no, that's actually so real. You see it with so many women who are extremely educated, right? Who have achieved so much. And yet that auntie will come and ask you, when are you getting married?
What's wrong with you? Some even go the extent of saying, but what's wrong with you? And you ask, with my 2 master's degrees and my really good job and what's wrong with me?
Right?
Like, there's nobody who's interested in you. What's wrong with you?
I know a prophet who can pray for you.
Right? Yeah. And it's almost like you haven't achieved anything. I know somebody who's very educated, never been married, never had a kid. And I remember for years, people would always be like, you don't want to end up like her. She doesn't have children. And I'll be like, I want to end up like that woman. She has her money up. Like, she's traveling around the world. She's doing all of those things. Like, it's almost so ridiculous. That's why I think it even makes it harder for women to join politics, right?
It does.
Because not only are you dealing with like a very misogynistic culture, but you're dealing with a society that has raised men to not even be comfortable with powerful women, right? You will see stories of I've seen stories of women who are in position and are victims of gender-based violence because their husbands can't take the fact that this woman has money, this woman has this position, and so they constantly have to demean her. So already this woman is dealing with like her own family. She now has to deal with the potential of a partner who could abuse her. So if that alone, your small community treats you like that, what about the rest of the country? How will they treat you? You want to make a man the first gentleman, as he should be, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's such a messy thing. Chilvia, in your opinion, right? Do you think, I know there are some countries that are praised for having like, they have 50% of members of parliament. They, have representation of women, and yet those are just like, they're just positions, right? Still at the end of the day, the people who have the power, even when we have these women in position, they don't actually advocate for like laws that advance women's rights. Do you think we should just focus on like getting as many women as possible in parliament, or do we just focus strategically on just getting feminists in parliament?
I think we should focus on getting feminists in parliament, because I feel like most of these like political parties are pushing the agenda of we support women, we want to empower women, but then they're only doing that to like get votes from the women. And then once those women are put there, they're just there to show face. They're not there to actually do their work. So if we actually put feminists, people who are for the cause, I feel like we'll get better results because they understand what they're fighting for and they know why they're there.
That's true. So we are in an election year, right? And we are coming from the last elections where there was this like huge voter turnout. But like this year, there's like worry that there's going to be a lot of voter apathy, right?
Yeah.
Hazel, in your opinion, do you think people are justified to have voter apathy?
Phew, that's a loaded question. I'm the wrong person to ask because I have been considering also being part of that group, but I won't be. I was just considering it. I feel like people are allowed to be angry that they didn't get the results they were promised, or they didn't get the results that they wanted. But there will be no change unless you try to make it happen through voting. So we're still going to have to be the ones to vote for a better leader, whoever we think is the better leader in our opinions. We're still going to have to be the ones to listen to all the campaigns and read all the manifestos and see for ourselves, actually, I prefer this person's plan over this one. I feel like the thing with voter apathy is it's so easy, like to not make it your problem, to be like, it's fine, I don't have to vote, someone also do it. But then when you're complaining, you're like, the economy, that, no, this, that. Where were you when it was your time to like come and make a difference? Because your one vote will in fact make a difference. Like, we just have to show up, honestly. We just have to show up and vote and like try to do what we can. Because at the end of the day, when you're complaining, you have no right to complain. At least when you vote, you have the right to be angry. But when you don't vote, you have no right to complain because you didn't even try. Like, at least other people tried to change something, but you didn't. You just sat there and waited for someone else to do it for you, which is unfair to the rest of the population, I believe.
Given, do you feel the same?
I do. I actually do. I think voting is a very important process. It's in our weak democracies, it's one of the few times that citizens are actually given a chance to be heard. And what better, if you stay away, you send no message. They could easily interpret it as, maybe they were unwell, maybe they wanted to vote or just unwell, but if you show up and you cast your vote, you send a message loud and clear. Voting is a powerful voice that you're on. I think it's disrespecting your own voice if you don't show up and let it be heard, regardless of who you're voting for. That's your voice.
Yeah.
And you must use it loudly and proudly. Because if you're unhappy, still, it's a good time to use your vote, your vote. If you're happy, it's still a good time to send that message.
Yeah.
Every time you don't show up to vote, you shame your own voice. You disrespect your own voice. Something that people gave us lives for you to do. You disrespect all these women that we've spoken about earlier who had to fight for so much for us to be able to do it. So every time we don't show up, we're telling them, it wasn't that deep. You guys should have let it. Yeah. Every time we show up, we honor them and we are heard. And I think we must take it seriously. Like I said earlier on, our democracies are still quite weak. Elections are the one time we send a strong message. And we definitely need to show up. If you stay home, you've really done nothing. You might be unhappy, but we won't know. You might be happy, we won't know. But so you need to show up and vote and be heard.
Chilofia, your opinion?
I think I agree with what Hazel and Given are saying. And I feel like also, these days people because of social media, people are getting most of their opinions of not wanting to vote from what they're seeing. Like, oh, I don't think there's anyone that can challenge this particular party. I think I'll just stick to this. I think I won't go vote. But then voting is also a representation of your beliefs and values. The person that you're putting up is representing what you believe in. So if you do not pick that person, they'll give you the things that you didn't want.
Yeah,
and
true.
At the end of the day, you only have yourself to blame because you had a chance to stand for what you believed in.
That's true. But I'm going to throw a question to you, right? And I think it's for, we're going to experience different types of voters. Those ones that just feel like, every government is the same. There's no point, right?
Yeah.
Like, we thought bringing in this new party was going to be different, but look at what they've done. I have this one lady, I won't mention her business, right? But she's somewhere in Kawata Market. And in her shop, she's banned music by artists who've done any campaign songs for the current government. She spends every 5 minutes, insulting the current government. She's just always not insulting so that they go under arrest, but just fueling, just this government. When she sees electricity, she's just like, you people, if you vote this government, you will never see electricity for the next 5 years, right? She's just so disgruntled, and I understand it because the time I said going to visit her business was just before the elections, and she had 2 shops and she had 15 girls. And in 5 years, she has 1 shop and she only has 4 girls now, right? Those are people who specifically the electricity issue has affected their business massively, right?
It's true.
So many issues have affected their business, and you deeply understand such kind of people in to the point where they just don't feel what's the point in voting, right? How does my life change like that? And then you find there's some people who've done amazingly, right, within this these last 5 years, and people will automatically and just be like, money laundering, this and that, because no one can believe that with the things that people have had to go through within the last 5 years, that their business could actually be very successful. But my question now is to the other people who are very concerned at the constitution changes, right? You vote someone in, you vote, but the president is allowed to nominate how many people? Is it 110?
No, so currently he nominates 8, but plus the numbers that I think they're increasing to, is it 11? Not sure on the numbers so much, but they've increased the number of parliamentary seats, because of delimitation. There'll obviously be more seats that people can vie for. But also because of the new constitution, there's 20 seats for youth, there's some seats for the disabled and some seats for women. So the thing is, the person who gets the most votes on presidency already gets the bigger chunk of who gets appointed into parliament, which gives the ruling party a huge margin as compared to the other political parties. with the change in the law, the moment a president is declared, he already has approximately 30 seats in the House. Just the day you're declared president, before they even count the other parliamentary seats. So then people are just like, But yeah.
I think that's one thing that's like preventing people, because it's then like, what's the point? What's the point of my vote? And it's, I think, so scary, specifically when you think of the Constitution, right? The Constitution governs our government. No president, no MP is bigger than the program. Like, that's why Constitution is literally our first law. It's the most important law. If anyone goes against your human rights or anything, you can take them to the Constitutional Court and say, this is against the Constitution. If a law is put in place that is against the Constitution, you can go and question that. So then, how then do we govern ourselves as a society when our Constitution can easily be changed by the ruling party to like fit their agenda, right? Because you saw it under the previous government, where the term for the president, right? It strictly says a president should have 2 terms.
Yeah.
Then the Constitution they went and changed it and basically said, if you serve for this less years, it's technically not a term, right? It's the idea that our constitutions can be changed without our input, right? But others can argue and say it is your input because you failed to vote. By refusing to vote, you give these people the right to do whatever it is that they want. When you sit and you say, this year, me, I won't stand up, right? It means somebody could easily go and put up a law in the Constitution and say, anyone whose name starts with H, you will be killed. And you can't argue it because it is the Constitution. Right? Anyone can come and say, if you run a small business, you have to be taxed 60%, and they put it in your Constitution. You cannot argue it, because the belief is that when you vote for members of parliament, or when you don't vote for members of parliament, by not voting, you are agreeing to the ones that people have voted for, right? You're not staying neutral, you're not staying quiet, you are supporting the majority vote. That's what it means. So it means you have gone and voted in these people who can now write any kind of law that can discriminate against you. And it's worse for us women, because our position already is like it's not necessarily the safest. Anyone can come tomorrow. You see it in other countries, right? Anyone can come tomorrow and say, no women are allowed to go to school. And you can't come and complain because you didn't vote. You didn't vote. What you did was you left a few people to go vote and left the majority to go and vote the other side. And that's how we found, like, for example, when you look at Europe right now, Europe is going through a right-wing wave. Most governments that were very feminist are now voting for very anti-feminist governments, right? Most governments that were anti-racist are now voting for very racist governments, because as a people who want progression, you're happy to tweet about it, you're happy to text about it, you're happy to even sit in your house over a beer because you think your privilege will protect you. And then tomorrow, when you find you've lost your job, you find that HR is no longer allowing you 14 weeks for maternity leave because the new constitution insists that any woman who gives birth must be fired from her job, because mothers should stay home. Like, what does that say to you, right? I don't know what you guys have to think about this. I feel like I can rant about it the whole day.
And the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking to myself, every time somebody decides they'll not show up and vote, they're actually voting. Yeah. You're making a decision without showing up to make one. But then you have no control over which way you're voting. And that's actually very important that you put it that way. If people feel like it's safer to just stay back and not vote because I'm unhappy about this, or I'm happy about this, or whatever the reasons are, it still gives power for whatever they're unhappy about to continue. And makes me reflect and just think that we need to be a bit more deliberate as a people. I think it's Napoleon or somebody who said, evil prevails when good men do nothing. If you do not stand with the oppressed, you said it, there's no neutral grounds. You're either standing with the oppressed or you side with the oppressor. There's nothing like I'm neutral. So if there's an issue and you're saying, I realize that there's an issue, there's oppression here, things are not right in this country, things have to be better. But then you say, but I'll just stand here, I'm neutral. You've instantly sided with the oppressor.
Yeah.
Because there's no neutral grounds, like you already said. You either show up and add your voice to it. It's actually, I'll go back to something that someone said earlier. I think it was that it gives you a bit more credibility and arrogance even as you hold governments accountable. Knowing that you showed up and voted. You're then able to say, if you voted for them, you're able to say, you see, we voted for you so that we can have women's rights upheld. We voted for you so that this and this can be. And they're then able, you have that legitimacy, you're able to then hold them accountable. But even if you didn't vote for them, you're still able to remind them and say, you see, this is why I actually didn't vote for you. You have no respect for women's rights. Can you make it better? And we know how elections work in this country. Once you say, this is why I didn't vote for you people, because of 1, 2, 3, 3, 3, make it better. And we could actually, they would do it to get the more votes and whatnot. And perhaps then we can begin to even demand to for laws and policies that reflect feminist principles, laws and policies that have respect for women's rights, and not just this chipante-pante that we now have where men meet over drink somewhere and decide and say, oh, okay, no, let's actually bring up a bill or something that will what, and they go and they churn it a certain way, and we're left here talking and tweeting and whatnot, as you said, which really shouldn't be the case. I think our step one, I don't know what we can do, but we really need to do something. I think my friends and I were talking the other day, like, guys, what do we do? Do we need to have a chill at a polling station and just call everyone, like, guys, there's T-bone and meat here, come and vote, you show the Kathambu. It's that important. Like, we need to make it fun. We need to make it deliberate. We just need to show up, regardless of the issues. And Anne made a very important point earlier on when she spoke about how people have different grievances, and they're genuine grievances. Like, there are people who are genuinely struggling and saying, you see, I should leave my business to go and vote. Me, for what? And I do sympathize and I do agree. And I know all of us have a story or the other where we can relate. It could be somebody that we've interacted with. It could be ourselves, because I was part of the young people that did the ZESCO protest, because we felt the pinch. Like, we felt the pinch, the impact on small businesses and whatnot. But still, that should actually be your burning fire. Your struggles should push you out of that bed on that election day and say, if let's say your issue is 5 years of load shedding, in 5 years of load shedding again, God forbid. Oh, it could be, if things have been good, because I don't know, we have different experiences. If things have been good, it should push you out of bed and say, things have been so good, I'm not leaving it out to chance, I'm going to vote. Whether it's been bad or good, let it fuel your fire to go and vote. That's the only way we make things better.
That's true.
I think.
Yeah, I feel like when I was voting for the first time, all that was fueling me was my anger. Like, oh, things have to be better. Like, I didn't know which things exactly, but some things had to be better. So I feel like it's important anyway, my question is, what things do you feel young people, especially young women, should like focus on when thinking about the change that they want to be made? Like, we've spoken a lot about the load shedding, electricity, but like, what other factors or sectors should young people think about when thinking about change?
I think one of the first things you should think of is, like, I think it's always helpful, just write down a list of what really affects you. If it's ZESCO, put it. I can't use my aircon because ZESCO has no effect. If it's that, put it down, right? Because all those things are important to you. You have to remember that. I think one thing that people forget is that you're the boss, right?
Yes.
The government exists to work for you, right? That is the essence of democracy. Is it for us, by us? What's the shiny of democracy? The idea is that you are the people who are leading, and you are the people that the government is working for. Like, you don't work for the government. The government works for you. The president is your employee. The MP of your constituency is your employee, right? they are accountable to you. And they're, what's this? The end of their 5 years is when you do that evaluation system with them. Okay, this was my MP. What did my MP vote on? I feel like if we had like a really good digital system, it would help. Like, what laws did my MP vote on? And you're able to see like, okay, this is what this person did. I know, like, when you look at, I think, American like election systems, you can go online and are able to kind of like have a whole profile on the person that you're voting on, and you're able to see what their stance are, what their, values are. You can even check, okay, in the last 5 years, how many laws have been pushed in this country that advance women's rights? Has there been an improvement in my reproductive health care? Has there been improvement even in healthcare itself? Are you going to the hospital and actually getting proper healthcare? Do you go to UTH, and does UTH now have a proper system? What laws have been passed exactly? What does your councillor do? Me, I know my councillor should count his days, because he is never getting my vote ever again in my life. Because in all the years I've lived in my area, that man has not done a single thing, right? There has not been any improvement. Still the same potholes, still the same issues, things like that. Like, it has to be small things, because something as simple as potholes increases your time for when you get to the office or when you do anything, right?
Yeah.
Something as simple as electricity, it affects your mental health. Like me, I usually say I would rather live without running water. I would have electricity every day. I can be getting water from a drum, but I can't be getting electricity from a drum, right? There's only so much my power bank can do, right? I feel like it's important that you list all these things, and you remember that you are the boss. You have to go there and you're checking in the last elections, the essence around it was just, let's get these people out.
Yeah, that's very true.
You were just voting people without knowing. Me, I tried. I legitimately went. I was like, okay, who are the people running for MP in my constituency? What do they stand for? The only thing I was seeing is them, what's this? All over their posts, it's about the president of their party. That's why I felt more comfortable even voting for independence, because I was like, at least you're not here trying to sell me a party. I'm trying to vote for you as a human being. And I think that's one thing. Like, hold these people accountable.
Yeah.
They come to your rallies. They shouldn't say, we'll build schools, we'll build roads. No. That's not your job as an MP. Your job as an MP is laws. What laws are you going to advocate for me? Like, things like that. Those are my short, simple, humble words.
I feel like we need some tips for first-time voters, because I feel a lot of young people don't know what to expect when they're going to vote. So first and foremost, I will tell you, expect a queue like you've never seen in your life before. Like, carry some food if you can, some water, something. But just know there are a lot of people who want some change to happen as well. So there'll definitely be a queue. Prepare yourself for that mentally, please.
Yeah, true. And I totally agree with both of you. Anne makes a very important point that we need to first of all have a checklist. I make checklists too before I decide to date somebody. I tick off. I think it should just be it should really just be as serious before you choose a president or a parliamentarian or any leader who presides over a nation's resources. Like, make your list. What's important to you? What your expectations are? Most of their manifestos are online. Try to scan through some of them. What do they say about women? Does their political party even have a gender department, a gender unit? Do they have a sexual harassment policy within their party? Because the honest truth is, political parties just really carry on with whatever they have at party level and bring it to national level. So if you're out here looking at a party manifesto and they have no gender unit, they have no sexual harassment policy, already it reflects what kind of government they're going to form. I mean, you are then, if at party level, when they were just a small number, they didn't have a gender unit or anything, how do you think they're going to prioritize any gender or women-related issues at national level? So have that your checklist. Make sure you have it. And you're definitely right. The queues, I almost went back the first time I voted because I found these long queues and I'm like, But yeah, and alongside just being ready for the queues is just going slightly early. Like, try and get up really early. I know that the polling station only opens by 6 a.m. If you're there by 5, that would be good. Another thing that really helped for me the first time I voted was not going alone.
Yeah.
I had friends, I had my sisters. That's good for security. It's also because sometimes people can be very overzealous on those lines. Cadres are there or excited. So it helps that you're there with some friends, some family. You're there keeping each other company as well. If you're able to carry somewhere to sit, I know that last time tualikuwa mats, it was almost like a picnic. Like sometimes it would come, hi, Imididan, can you stand there? The line is moving. But still, when you can sit, spread your kamat and sit. If you have an affordable chair, carry it, sit, and whatnot. So just be comfortable, wear your comfortable shoes, wear your comfortable clothes. Ensure that you make sure you're safe. Make sure that you know who you're voting for. You don't need to say it to anyone because, again, the lines people can get really emotional on those cues.
Yeah.
But yeah, most importantly, decide to vote. Have a checklist so you already know who you're voting for. Because if you don't know, they will win you over on that line.
And there's always someone trying to rage bait you on the queue, like, hey, let's vote for this person. Let's go vote. You know you're not supposed to be doing that. So they're just trying to get like a reaction out of some people, start some form of commotion. And if it's the first time I voted, it was quite funny. 2011 was the year and people were there on the line busy saying, we all know what we are going through in this country. Don't forget what you are voting on. And they're giving you this party symbol and they'll try to do that. Also, don't just argue back. Let them be. Yeah, honestly, that's the best thing to do.
Everyone, I feel like on election day is really just in, cadres are excited. Everyone is just anxious. And so they might want to just finish their anxiety on you, but just ignore them and know what you're there for and just do it.
I also think it's important to think long term as you're making a decision to vote for whatever you're voting for, because it's not just about the now, it's about the future generations, the future women that are coming to lead this country. How will this thing that you're voting for affect them? So I think long term, don't just think of the now.
That's true. And just because your uncle is standing, just don't go vote for him. Your uncle can go and change the laws for women's rights, right? Make sure you're actually voting for people who believe in what you believe in. And sometimes, I'll give an example, right? I always remember like talking to my sister years ago. She is like, she's a citizen of like a different country in Europe. And at the time they were legalizing abortion rights. And I remember talking to her and like I was talking to her and she was getting ready to go and vote, right? And I was like, oh, which way are you voting? Because like my sister is very religious. Okay, very religious is a strong word. But like, she was like, I'm very, pro-life. She was like, I am like, I don't believe people should be having abortions. I don't believe I should have an abortion. But she was like, but I don't believe, but I've seen enough women leave this country to go and have an abortion elsewhere. I've seen women kill themselves just to get an abortion. And I don't think that is fair. I think that if women are in a position where they don't want to have babies, regardless of what my beliefs are, I should not force them on these women. So I am going to vote for this law to be passed so that women can stop dying. That's where my pro-lifeness exists, right? And I thought I was like, that is like such a powerful way to think about it. Just because certain things go against your religious beliefs, your whatever beliefs, the idea that women are being harmed, that women are being hurt, like the laws that are existing are not protecting vulnerable people just because you don't fit that demographic. You suddenly find you go and vote this person that suddenly goes and says, we're going to turn off, there's no longer televisions in this country, no screens, everything is going to be radio, right? Because you people don't listen to anything. You need like a time off from TVs. Forgetting that there are people who have hearing impairments, right? Things like people who don't see the bigger picture. And that's important. Like what Chilufia said, stop thinking about the now. Go and actually vote for smart people. Go vote for people who actually care about the community. not that uncle of yours who's been a member of parliament for the last 20 years and hasn't even passed a law that has even helped their people in any way or advanced for the budgeting to be pushed into their constituency to help. Like, no, go actually vote for decent human beings.
Well, on the topic of like first time voters or like voting generally, where do you think young people can find reliable information about their candidates and what they are standing for? Because I feel like a lot of people go to Facebook to look for this information, but there's also a lot of misinformation on Facebook. So where do you think, where do you think people should go to look for the actual information that the people running or people standing are putting out?
So because also, and you're very right, Facebook could be a reliable source if you're able to find a verified page that belongs to the particular candidate or a verified party page. But because of the propaganda that surrounds elections, you might not even know if this is the opponent trying to just, but people need to know that political party offices, political party structures, which are spread around different parts of the country, there's a ward office for different political parties, they're open to the public. I know they thought of, no, they're too political. No, if I enter, they'll think I also belong to this party. No. Simply show up. You could be in your uniform. You could be in your church clothes. You could be in your plain clothes. Just reach out and say, I'm kindly asking if you can explain to me what is your party's standing on this issue. And they'll explain. Those are open spaces. They are more desperate to sell their message to you than you actually think. Another thing is that political party manifestos are online. If you were to Google up a political party manifesto, go to a particular party's website, you'll find most of their political parties. You'll find what they say about many different issues that matter to you. Political parties also have spokespersons. They'll issue out some statements, and these statements are telltale signs. You hear what somebody says about, if education is important to you, already you can hear what somebody says about education, and that can sort of already build your line of thought around it. So some reliable sources, please do not be afraid of these political party offices. Show up there and ask. No one will genuinely send you away. There's the MP's office. Each political party has different offices in different areas. There's also the MP's office. Every constituency has an office for their member of parliament. Even if your member of parliament is not there, they have officers who are there to support that office. You can reach out and say, okay, what have you done on this so far? And it could not even just be on a party manifesto. I think I was speaking to young people sometime last week and I was telling them, you know that they're complaining, no, we don't know where CDF is going, we don't know this. And I said, you know that you have the right to walk into local government, to walk into your councillor's office and say, how many bursaries have you given out so far? How many projects are running so far on CDF? How much? And you have a right to acquire this information. I don't know I don't know what we're genuinely scared of that keeps us from going to these offices and just asking them directly. What that also does is, again, I go back to the accountability thing. If I come to you, to your political party office, and I say, can I see your manifesto? What's your position on abortion? What's your position on sexual reproductive health rights? And I come and you tell me, if I take that information and I come and hold you accountable to it in the future, you can't then come and say, no, where did you get that from? Vapa Facebook? What? Because I can say, no, on 12th June, I walked into your office. This is the information I was given. You get. So we, as young people, young women especially, we know what we go through. We know how important these issues are to us. There's nothing stopping us from going to some of these offices, some of these political parties, bluntly visiting them and asking for their position on these issues. Another very important thing is the access to information bill was enacted, still has operational issues, but working with the media is another very important route. You can reach out to some of these media houses and just say, oh, Nipempako, when these people come, can you ask a question about this? I want to have a deeper understanding on their position on this. So different sources of information. Some information on social media also could be reliable depending on where you're getting it from. It would be good to target verified political party pages. That way, we don't fall into the trap of propaganda.
My friend and I were actually talking about the upcoming elections, and she was talking about how usually right before elections, like we have a small national crisis. Like there's always something that happens that makes the country, like already there's unrest, but like there's always something that makes the country unsafe. Gassing, shani, like different things just happen that make the country unsafe during that period. So are there any tips you can have for people to practice safety during the election period?
Very important, and it's a very sad but true reality that we tend to have all this confusion right before elections. And I always ask myself, where is all this coming from? Is it an intimidation technique to keep people away from voting? Is it? I don't know. I don't even know how we can explain it. But we need to prioritize our safety as well. And the thing I mentioned, if you're going to engage in political discourse, make sure that it's respectful, it's clean, it's pure. That way, no one is targeting you for any form of attack, no matter, even when they come at you aggressively, stay the line of objectivity. But also, it's sad because as you mentioned, the unrest and whatnot, I'm thinking about the current issues going around on this. Already we've lost a life. We had another man accused in Chingola, and we don't know to what extent it will go. But I think the one thing that we also just need to gang up together as young women, as young people, as citizens, to just emphasize that the police up their game. They need to up their game. If we know as citizens that it gets really risky around this time, surely if they are the security wing, they also know. So really, we need to demand that they up their game. It is their responsibility. If they need to be conducting patrols, they need to do it. If we need officer stations at each market, stationed at each area where there's huge crowds of people, they need to do it. We need to demand better from our security wing because it's becoming a pattern and people are taking advantage now. And we need to demand that that doesn't happen. We can't afford to have our young women scared of going to vote because of we don't know if you'll make it back alive or something might happen. And so we need to demand better. But also, I mentioned earlier, let's try as much as possible to move in groups. Don't move alone. I think it's easier for you to actually be harassed or even attacked when you're alone. And so, but move with friends, move with company. I know that in the last election, we actually had to go a mile further and tell young women and young people, like, no, don't be found in the clothes of this color. They'll interpret you. But I don't even like to have to say that. Like, why do you have to control what color of clothes I wear? Because it's an election, I must just be made to feel safe. Our security wings need to just up their game and ensure that it's safe. If it's okay with young people, I tell them if it's okay with you. I personally don't do it. I will wear what color I like when I like. But if you feel it makes you safer because you're wearing red or green or blue as opposed to this color because it will get you attacked, that's okay too. It's good to do it too.
So now I want to get everyone's opinions on this. Where does that put us when it comes to wearing political regalia? Like,
you know what I believe personally? I think this is my own stance, right? I actually am heavily against people aligning with political parties because it's I think, and I saw this in our last election, for the first time in my life, and I've been here for a minute, right? Zambians were voting for independent, people, right? Like, people who did not belong to parties were winning seats. That is when I was growing up, that was unheard of. It was strictly political party, right?
Yeah.
And so I think if we're going to evolve as a people, I think we should start breaking away from the idea of political parties and start questioning people's ethics. Stop thinking, this is the party my grandmother supported. So maybe your grandmother's politics isn't so good, right? Start thinking of these people as individuals rather than political parties. I really don't think it's smart for us to align ourselves with political parties because political parties have an agenda, and that is to advance their beliefs, their systems, and this is why it hurts us so much, saying, me, I voted for this political party. And what do you mean I haven't had power for 5 years, right? If I feel like you break it down and start focusing on the person rather than the political party, you find you'll be less upset, less angry, and you just be saying, okay, Bambulenga, I voted for you, you are fired next, what's this term, right? So I'm 100% against like us aligning in any form, whether it's for say like the dressing of the colors and whatnot. Please just wear black and go vote, or wear your bubu like me and carry your kachea and your bag and your 2 juice and your tuma biscuits and go and prepare to sit for 5-6 hours. If you even have an umbrella like me, just go sit and do not come here and support political parties because they'll leave you in the deeds. And they will go, weren't you not seeing with the last party? Do you know what made me vote? I was seated at home. I turned on Facebook and there was a video of somebody burning money to warm themselves up.
Oh, yeah, those guys are crazy.
Burning money. Meanwhile, doctors were not being paid. Meanwhile, people were dying in hospitals, right? Meanwhile, there were scandals of how people had gotten infected because of what? The condoms that they were buying, the medication that they were buying. I was like, I am going to vote because this nonsense has to end. Because I didn't vote in the previous election. I was like, it's people like me who caused this nonsense. And I feel like as we're going in this one, stop thinking, we're like in a very good position to not think of political parties, but to think of people. Last time we were like, don't split the vote.
Yeah.
Let's just vote for this person. We move on. But this time you can split it 300 ways as you can, but stop focusing on political parties. Just focus on the person.
I personally feel like over the past elections, I feel like political parties have been using fashion against us. Because when I was in high school, there was this girl and her dad was running and she had this cool sweatsuit. Like the hoodie was expensive and so were the sweatpants. They were just so thick. And everyone was like, oh, where do you get? Oh, my daughter's like giving these. Do you guys want some? And people were like, yeah, please bring fast. And I feel like just like that, people were sold over a sweatsuit. And in the last election, people were like, no, actually, this t-shirt quality is better than the other party's t-shirt quality. So maybe I should vote for these guys that have got money, whatever. What are you saying right now?
Let me tell you, in 2016, I had like 4 political party t-shirts and they were for sleeping and cleaning with. This specific one was for cleaning with because it was easier to wash afterwards. The other one was for sleeping with because I'd remove it the moment I wake up. That is all you should use them for. Use them for home t-shirts. Do not use them as a thing. Even the music, Jesus, please. Like no matter how nice the songs are, that should not be the reason to vote.
Please.
I also feel
You don't see me voting for Beyonce.
You could though. If you could, you would.
It's like it's turned into like, you know how like people who watch soccer have like a soccer team that they support and they have the whole kit and they dress up, and then you create this emotional sort of attachment to this team instead of focusing, like Anita said, on the person and what value they bring. Yeah, it's like it's become entertainment and not something that actually matters.
Yeah, I feel like we could talk about this topic every day, but I think just to wrap it up, maybe we could all say like our last words. Given, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, sure. First things first, my first issue on elections and feminism is that when all feminists, calling on all feminists around the country to show up and make that decision to vote. Begin to do your research now. See who intends on who is a representation of your values, who intends to put in place policies and laws that reflect your values and reflect your protection and your interest. That's step number 1. 2, it's not enough to just make up your mind to vote. Rally up your friends, rally up your family, everyone that has your best interests at heart. Rally them up and ensure that you all show up to vote. Who you vote for is up to you, but again, align your values with who you vote for. Zambia has a representative democracy. That means who you vote for is a representation of you. They get to make decisions in parliament, in the council chambers, and they're speaking there as you because you voted for them. So make sure that they understand your struggles. What are our struggles as young women? What do we want to see change? If there's a chance to make those submissions, do make those submissions, but show up and vote for the person who's a representation of you. It's very important that we do vote. If you're a young woman who has the capacity to run, who has the interest to run, it's not important to just vote. We need to get in there and run as well. I always say it's okay to ask somebody to deliver a message on your behalf, but it's even better if you deliver it yourself. So imagine if we got more young women in National Assembly, more young women in the council chambers, it would actually be easier. Question that came up earlier that's very important is, even as we vote, are we voting for just anyone because they're women so that we increase the number of women in parliament, or are we voting for women who genuinely represent our interest? And the answer is quite two-way. It is important that we get women into National Assembly, because even if it's a woman who's not a feminist, they will understand period poverty. I always say it's easier for a fellow woman to understand period poverty, whether they're feminist or not. It's easier for a woman to understand when I speak about rape, whether they're a feminist or not. So I would definitely say, let's get those women into that house, but also let's continue to work on feminizing them. Like, we need to make them feminists, and we need to then bring them up to par with feminist principles. It is very important that we all show up this year. Lives were lost so we could vote. Every time we don't, and it's beyond voting, every time we don't participate in civic issues, every time we don't participate, every time there's a national issue at stake and we choose to stay away, we are instantly siding with the oppressor. So let's show up, guys. Let's always show up and make sure that we are heard. I think those are my last words.
I feel like my last words will I'm sounding like I'm trying to write an obituary. I feel like my last words for this episode will focus mainly around safety. I actually went alone for the last elections, but that's not something that I would advise, because I was bored. I was thinking about going home the whole time. I was thinking, what if I'm here too late? How am I going to go? So it's really important to find yourself, like Given mentioned earlier, find yourself a group of people you can go with, especially a group of people whose values align with yours as well, because you don't want to go there arguing, you leave arguing. Just, please stay safe in these times. If that means for you not wearing the political regalia, not wearing certain colors, that's okay. Just try to keep yourself as safe as possible, especially as young women.
I think my last words are, this is a power that you have, and it's important that you use it wisely. Don't just think about yourself. Think about your neighbor, your brother, your sister, your mom. Think about your community and how certain laws or policies will affect your community, and vote based on that. And I encourage you to vote. Please vote.
I think for me, my last thoughts are, like when everybody thinks of 2021, they think of also the time when the country voted out Kaunda, right? Like, Zambia is known to be one of the most democratic countries, and it's often believed that the youth always change movements in Zambia, right?
Yeah.
You could be somebody, you could just be a number in history, or you could be somebody that changed history and that impacted it, right? Don't be that 80-something grandma years from now, like with no influence to how you changed this country. There are people who've given their life, people who fought during independence, people who fought during colonialism, people who fought during slavery. Like, there's a long history of people changing the world around us. Women who were, beating up politicians, who were bombing our places, you come from a long history of people who don't sit on their hands and let others do work. And I think it's important that you continue that legacy. The world around you will not change until you stand up. You cannot sit and wait for others to change, because people will change the world in the way they want to see it. So the world that you wish for will not exist until you create it. So I think if we want the next 5 years to look different, if you're always complaining, Zambia, why aren't we not like Singapore? Zambia, why aren't we not like Asia? Zambia, why aren't we like... If you want us to be like the best, you have to act like the best. And the first step is voting. So please, come August, go vote. Get your chair like me, get your book, or download Netflix shows. What else do people do? Make a playlist, go sit, listen to music. I remember like at my polling station, people were coming with cooler boxes and they were sitting in like a corner. They were even sharing cake. Does anybody want some dessert? So please go do all of that, because this is your one time to be... This is like, you're like the board member of Zambia at this point. And so like, use your vote wisely. We out.